Okay, so I have a Premiere project open right here, and we are using the Essentials workspace. And the reason we're using that is because it has effect controls, it has both source and program, it's got everything we need to properly perform these particular tasks around masking. So I have a sequence here named masking. And inside of here, I've got this footage of a woman going to a grave. And then I also have this little girl looking straight ahead. What I want to do is have a little bit of storytelling here where the little girl's face sort of appears somewhere over the grave as if her ghost is, you know, appreciating the visitation by her mother. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to need to mask out her face here and then reposition it. So masking in Premiere has changed quite a bit in the last version or so. If you look here in the toolbar, there is the Object Mask tool. And if you hold down your mouse button, you get a number of more traditional masking tools here. So we have the ellipse mask, rectangle mask, and pen mask tools. And right, it's very easy to understand what these do. And ellipse will probably work just fine for this. Rectangle is going to create a rectangular mask, which would be inappropriate in this case because her head is not rectangular. And the pen mask tool is if you need to create a custom shape for your mask. Works just like the pen tool, except it creates a mask. So yeah. And notice too, there is an actual pen tool, of course, inside of Premiere, but if you use that, it's just going to create a shape. So not super useful for masking. So what I'm going to choose here is my ellipse mask tool. And then we can go ahead and create a mask. So I guess I'll start just in the middle of her face here. And if I click and drag, it creates an elliptical mask. If I hold down Shift, of course, it creates a perfect circle. And yeah, we need to just figure out what the shape of her face is. So if I go in and select this tool again, because if we do it from the center, I was trying to use some of the keyboard shortcuts similar to what's in Adobe Illustrator to make it grow from the center, but that wasn't quite working. So it might be different or it might not even exist in Premiere. But I'm going to start from up here. So just click and drag and just kind of estimate where it is. I think that's probably big enough right there, because we can always move the mask and adjust it afterwards. So if I move it up here, then there we go. Now we've got transform properties around the mask, and yeah, we can do all sorts of stuff. Here's the anchor point and so on. So now that I've created the mask, notice I've got this clip here of the little girl selected. And if we look up top in our effect controls, and let's just collapse all this stuff, we have our normal stuff here, motion, opacity effects, time remapping, but we also have something called unassigned masks. And this is sort of a new concept. So unassigned masks are masks that you create that aren't particularly bound to any property. And the mask itself has a number of properties. So it's got a tracker that you can associate with it. You can feather the mask, of course. So if we do some feathering, you can see on our canvas how that feathering kind of works. So we could feather out the edges a little bit here. We've got the opacity of the mask and then mask expansion. So we could pull it in tighter, make it expand larger. Maybe I'll put it somewhere around there. And that's basically what we've got for our mask. Now we can see it's an ellipse mask, but it is unassigned. So what we need to do is we need to bind it to some other property. And you can bind it to all sorts of things. So we could bind it to opacity, or we could bind it to an effect. So like if I grabbed an effect here, maybe a distortion effect. Let's do twirl, right? So if we have a twirl effect, I could always bind the mask to a particular effect, right? And now that I added the mask, it noticed it actually uh, assigned my mask to that because I had the mask selected, and which isn't quite what I wanted. But I can always shift this, right? I can move the mask onto opacity, and there we go. Now instead of the twirl effect, the mask is assigned to opacity. So as you can see, what this means is that the only thing that's actually being shown right now, because of the mask, is the little girl's face. And of course, we might need to do some additional work here to, change the feathering, whatnot. See how that kind of looks, right? And if I click off the mask, we can see it a bit better. So what I want to do is just kind of take the opacity of this layer down a little bit here. So she looks much more ghostly. And I also, of course, need to adjust her position. So that's going to be under motion. And let's have her just rise out of the grave, right? And I'll initially put her down here. And let's take, we could always keyframe the opacity too. So I'm going to go way back to the beginning of this clip of the little girl, and let's keyframe the position, the scale, and the proper opacity. So not the mask opacity, but the opacity value for the clip. All right. So what we're going to do is then go somewhere around here, right? Where we want it to end up. And I'm going to add a keyframe for opacity there. And then jumping back, I need to adjust this a little bit. Come on. Very, very fine. There we go. So going back here, I can adjust that opacity down to 0. And let's jump over there because I also want to go ahead. Actually, let's make this keyframe come in really fast. And then over here for position, right, X and Y. So, and scale as well, we're going to need to make adjustments to. So I'm going to first move her head to where I want it to be, to where I want it to end up. So like somewhere around there. Perfect. And if we preview this, we can see her head rise up out of the grave. And for scaling, I'm just going to go down here and add a keyframe and then jump back to the first keyframe. And let's just scale her face down a little bit. So now her head actually grows a bit as she comes out, and we'll stagger that keyframe as well. What I'm going to do is select this last keyframe for position, and I want to add an ease out here, and that changes the keyframe. All right, that should be pretty good. And there we have it. There is actually motion to her. You can't tell very well here because it is so transparent and so forth, but there is a bit of motion to her as she's doing that, as she rises. Whee! And at the end, we could always have her fade away, right? So back over my effect controls, keyframe that opacity, and just bring it down to 0 again. There we go. Just a tiny bit of storytelling there involving some very simple masking effects inside of Premiere.